Hello, boys and girls. Good morning to you. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy over the hump day to you. We're going to start some paper mache today. And a couple things before we begin. I had to adjust my mix a little bit because the instructions, the recipe had called for, let's see, 1 part flour, 2 parts water, and mine was too watery with the double water. So I bet what I ended up doing was almost 1 part of each equally into the mix, into the recipe, because I went back and I added some more flour. So I bet I have about a cup of flour in here, and I have about a cup of water in here. Okay, so it was supposed to be a consistency of pancake batter, and mine was just too watery. So I added more flour. So I did about a cup of each. Okay, so let me set that aside. The next thing you'll notice is I'm working on some wax or parchment paper, because you want to protect your surface, because it's going to get a little goopy today. Okay, today is just the preliminary start, and if this project spills into next week, which it could, because it's already Wednesday today, that's fine. What you'll do on Friday, 2 days from now at 3 o'clock, is just post a picture of what you have done so far. That'll be perfectly fine by me. And then if we have to make a few little adjustments next week, that's fine. We can talk about it on Monday. It's no big deal. So this Friday, you would just simply post what you had done up to that point. That's perfectly acceptable. And some people have already asked me, they said, Mr. K, if we cannot make the paper mache head, here's an example from which I'm going to work probably. Mine may not be exact to this, but I think it's a good idea if you have some kind of a reference, okay, from which to work. So all I did was I went onto the internet and I simply typed in paper mache dog, because I'm going to do a dog, but you can do whatever animal you like. It can be a zoo animal, it can be a wild animal, it could be a mythical creature. It doesn't matter to me, okay? As long as you're having a little fun and doing something that is three-dimensional in nature, okay? And I think you'll really enjoy this paper mache. But back to what some people had asked me. They said, Mr. K, I just don't have the ability to make the recipe. I don't have the ingredients. I'd much rather just submit the alternate assignment at the end of the week. And the alternate assignment would be a drawing, a two-dimensional rendition of some kind of an animal. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind if for some reason the paper mache doesn't work out or you don't have the ingredients. Okay, let me set this aside and let me show you something else I'm using today. I put my fingers on some paper this morning. It's a thinner paper. It's not as thick as the drawing paper that I typically use. Newspaper works real well for paper mache. If you have any old assignments from school, or if your folks have any papers laying around, that's perfectly acceptable as well. Just make sure you're not throwing away or crumpling up or using anything that's very, very important to them. Okay, don't paper mache with this month's gas bill for your house. It might not get paid, okay, and that would not be a good thing. So make sure you have your parents' permission to use whatever paper you are using. You know, make sure you have permission, okay? And what I did was I took some of the paper and I cut it into these little strips, and it's a little easier for me because I have a paper cutter in my studio. Your strips don't have to be this perfect. You know, you can use a pair of scissors and just cut the strips as uniformly as you can. These are roughly about 2 inches wide. So anything close to that will be totally acceptable. Okay. Now in terms of size, you know, how large am I going to make this thing? It's not going to be overwhelmingly large. Do you remember the lump of clay last week that we used for the three-dimensional faces? It was about the size of a softball or so. So that's a good ballpark measurement to have in the back of your brain as well. You know, about the size of a softball. A little bigger is fine. You know, we'll see how it works out. This is purely experimental and enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Okay? So here's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to ball up some paper for the shape of my little dog face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap a couple other layers around that original crumpled piece. And you'll notice that when you do that, your blob of paper, your wad of paper, grows. I'm going to do one more. So what is that, about 4 sheets of paper or so? Okay. One other thing I forgot to mention, it's not 100% necessary, but if you got a paintbrush laying around, that might be good because you can apply the paper mache with the paintbrush. But if you don't, your fingers will be perfectly capable of coating this blob of paper. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in my mix. And I think what I'm going to do, let me get this whisk out of here. Okay. Set that on my apron. And what I'm going to do is I am going to submerge the blob of paper. And I can already tell that the mix is totally 100% saturating the paper, which is good because that'll help us create a nice smooth surface. The paper will no longer be crumply. Okay, so let me get the bowl out of the way, put the blob back on my wax paper. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm starting to, and my paper's tearing a little bit in the one section, that's okay. The glue paste mixture will totally repair that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start spreading out the paste, and like I said, if you have a paintbrush, that may help as well. Let me lift this up, and I'm just going to give it a more compressed shape. Okay. I'm making a mess, but that's what we artists are good at, making messes. Let's get some glue in there, smooth it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those strips and I'm going to dunk them, submerge them in the paste as well. And now that I've got a nice semi-smooth blob, I can begin to add a little more shape to what's going to become my animal head, my little doggy. So what I did was I'm dunking one of the strips and I'm pulling it apart. Just tore a little bit, that's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that strip as best I can to add another layer of smoothness, if you will. So when you put these strips down, they're not as crumply. And they'll provide you with a smoother texture for your animal face. And I'm looking at the time, we're already at like 12 minutes or so, so I'm not going to go too much longer today. I'm going to tear this strip in half a little bit, and it's kind of like you're wrapping up a mummy, an Egyptian mummy. As I move forward in the next lesson, I will elongate the face of the dog and make it a little more of an oval shape. And then I'll think about building out the snout and other associated details. But if you can get it to something similar to what I have here, I think that's a good day's worth of work. And something tells me that this paint mix, this paper mache mix is not going to take all that long to dry. So what I'll do in the meantime is, between now and our next lesson, just set this aside someplace safe to dry out. And we got a lot of that paste underneath, so it should solidify, and we will totally be able to add some more layers to it as we move forward. Let me grab a paper towel here boys and girls, so I can cut off the video without totally staining my tablet. So I think this is a good place to stop for the day. I hope you had fun. I did. We're getting really messy lately in art, but that's what it's all about. And I'll be looking forward to talking to you some more tomorrow, moving forward with what's going to become a paper mache animal face. Happy sculpting, is that what I should say? Happy shaping, happy sculpting, happy paper macheing. Have a wonderful day, boys and girls. Talk soon. Bye now.